All right, welcome everyone. Good evening, folks. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is James Drake. I'm Senior Manager of Service Planning for Sacramento Regional Transit, and we're going to be talking about SacRT Flex, our new microtransit service. The agenda for tonight is the presentation will be about 20 minutes, and then we'll just open it up for Q&A. And after the presentation, I'll tell you a little more about how to ring in for Q&A. But before I do, I kind of wanted to pass the mic and introduce Laura Ham, our Vice President for Planning and Grants.
Good evening, everyone. As James said, I'm Laura Ham. I'm here with James tonight to help answer any questions you might have, and I'll go ahead and hand it back to him for the presentation and housekeeping. Thank you for being here.
Okay, so as I mentioned, the presentation is going to be on SacRT Flex, our new microtransit service. Some of you have probably attended our prior meetings. We talked a little about this, but we didn't yet have a name for the service. If you missed some of this, you can always go to sacrt.com/flex to get more information. You're also welcome to email me personally. My email address is on the screen, and it's my first initial J and my last name, Drake, D-R-A-K-E, at SacRT.com. In addition to tonight's presentation, we're going to be taking an item to our Board of Directors on Monday, November 18th at our regular meeting at 4 p.m. And that'll be an action item, which will be the major approval for this program. A lot of the parameters for this program at this point are finalized, but not all of them. So I really want to start off this presentation by saying that your comments really do matter. There are a lot of details that are still to be determined, and a great deal of the content of this project really truly is because of public input. So let me jump into the first slide here. So SacRT Flex, like I said, is the name for the service that will be replacing the existing SmartRide microtransit service. SacRT Flex is going to be similar in a lot of ways. This will be what we call demand response service. It will be what we call microtransit. It'll let customers book a ride point to point from their home to their destination using a smartphone app or by calling in by phone if they prefer. It's going to have the same zones with the same boundaries, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The vehicles also will be 100% accessible. There'll be a nice affordable fare. One change that there will be is rides on SacRT Flex will be reservable in advance, which is something you can't currently do on SmartRide. And we're going to get into a lot of those details tonight, as well as kind of to cover some ground on why we're making this change. But first, just to kind of cover the overall timeline, this is a project or a service that customers will have to register for in advance. That's a little different than SmartRide. That application and registration process is expected to open on Monday, December 2nd. And then we'll be doing a soft launch on December 17th at about half of full service levels. That'll be kind of like our beta testing and a chance for customers to try the service out if they'd like. The last day of SmartRide service will be Tuesday, December 31st. And on the first service day of the year, Thursday, January 2nd, that'll be the full launch of SacRT Flex. At that point, it will take over for SmartRide. And we have funding right now for Flex for 18 months. So June 30th is the end date of this 18-month project. So new service with a new name, and there will be a new app. I think it'll be called SacRT Flex. The fleet will be entirely new, and if you're looking at the slides, on the bottom right, there's a image of kind of a standard passenger van. That's just kind of a stock photo. The actual vehicle will have distinctive branding, marking, colorings, and it'll actually have a rear entry lift. But it will be, if you're used to using SmartRide today on cutaway or paratransit style buses, these will be smaller vehicles like this. Our operator for this is going to be a firm by the name of VIA. And if you've ridden the microtransit service in West Sacramento, VIA is the operator for that microtransit service. And coincidentally, if you've ridden SmartRide, VIA is the software provider for us for the app and for the back office dispatching for SmartRide. So although it will be a new app with a new name, a lot of the behavior and the capabilities should be the same or similar. The fare for SacRT Flex is going to be $2.50 per ride. And that's similar to what we have today, but there are some important differences. First, passes won't be accepted on SacRT Flex. Currently, if you ride SmartRide and you have a monthly pass, you can make unlimited free rides on SmartRide. Capacity is going to be a little more constrained on SacRT Flex, so we will no longer be allowing pass use on Flex. Also, today on SmartRide, we essentially use the fixed route fare, which means that if you're a senior, disabled, you're eligible to ride for the discount fare of $1.25. With SacRT Flex, it's just going to be one $2.50 fare across the board, which is still a pretty good deal compared to paratransit or SacRT Go, for instance, at $5. But we think this will help kind of incentivize people to take fixed route transit, to take the regular bus or light rail, if that's an option to them, and help conserve capacity on SacRT Flex. Payment to ride will be made by cash or by credit or debit card, which you can do through the app. Initially, at least, we won't be installing Connect card readers or taking Connect card or Zip Pass. Those payment methods may be added after we get to launch, but initially just be cash or credit and debit through the app. Reservations, as I mentioned, can also be made in advance. And initially, we're going to make SacRT Flex so that you actually have to make your reservations in advance, at least the day before. With a smaller fleet of just 11 vans, there will be less service to go around. Although we have had a lot of requests and a lot of popularity for on-demand service, initially during the soft launch and the initial full launch, we're going to be book in advance only, so as to make sure customers have a little more certainty in advance whether they have a trip or not. To touch a little bit more on the fleet, and this slide shows a couple images on the right. On the upper right is a shot of the vehicle that is currently used in West Sacramento by VIA. Our vehicle may look a little different. We'll definitely have different colors and styling, but a similar size vehicle. And on the bottom right, there's an example of a vehicle with a rear entry lift. It will be 11 vans. All of them will be lift equipped and accessible both to persons with wheelchairs as well as service animals. Those were two really common requests we had and concerns we had. The other thing I'm going to touch on is if you bring a child who needs to be in a booster seat, customers will need to secure that booster seat themselves and secure the child themselves. All three of the seats will have seat belts. So as I mentioned, it's a smaller fleet, so there's less service out there. And because of that, one really important change with SacRT Flex is that customers will have to register in advance, and registration and qualification to ride SacRT Flex will be limited to just certain populations. With less total service to go around, we're limiting this service to vulnerable populations, including seniors 62 and older, persons with disabilities, as well as low-income persons and households. And I'll dive into that a little more in the next slide. But customers will need to register in advance, and that process will open up on Tuesday, December 2nd. So to cover a little more on the low-income eligibility, if you're a recipient of CalFresh or SNAP or CalWorks or TANF, or if you're a Medi-Cal recipient or a recipient of general assistance, you'll be eligible to ride this service. And the way you'll qualify is you'll go to our website, you'll enter your name and your contact info, and typically you'll just provide us with a photo of your benefit letter for one of these programs. As long as it has a clear shot of your name and address and an eligibility date, we'll get you approved. It'll probably be a couple-day turnaround, and then we'll get you into the system and your account created. If you're a general assistance recipient, you're eligible to have a DHA pass, which is shown in the bottom right of the screen, and that entitles you to unlimited rides on fixed route transit, and it'll also entitle you to ride SacRT Flex. And lastly, children in the household of a qualified low-income rider will also be eligible to ride as long as their account is created under their parent's name. As far as disabled eligibility goes, if you're already a rider of SacRT Go paratransit, you'll be eligible for this. You will need to go in and make a brief application, but all you really need to do is put your name and your email, and we'll verify that you're in our system for SacRT Go. If you are already a holder of a SacRT disabled ID, similarly, you're qualified to ride SacRT Flex. We'll just ask that you go online and provide a photo of your disabled ID. If you don't have a disabled ID, but you think you may be qualified for one, there's a link on this page to our webpage where you can get an application. You can find that on SacRT.com. There's a brief application of a couple pages, and then ultimately you'll need to go down to our customer service center at 1225 R Street for a photo to have your card issued. But if you're on SSI or SSDI, that's a very common way to qualify for a disabled ID. Also, anyone with a DMV disabled placard is eligible to get a disabled ID. In addition to letting you ride SacRT Flex, it entitles you to half off your ride on the big bus or on light rail. And for SacRT Flex itself, if you have a disabled placard, you'll also be welcome to just upload a photo of that to our website, and we'll qualify you directly through the web that way. On companions, if you'd like to ride with one friend, one adult companion will be allowed, but that person will have to pay an additional fare. Like I mentioned, these vans have just 3 seats, so we do want to be cautious about allowing groups to ride. But if you're a parent riding with children, there's no limit to the number of children you can bring along, and those children also ride for free. Adult companions do each have to pay a fare. And of course, all ride requests are subject to capacity. If there's just not room on the van, we won't be able to get you your trip. A little more on minors. Like I said, kids 17 and under who ride with a parent or guardian, they ride for free. Kids 13 to 17 are allowed to ride alone. That's the same as Smart Ride today. But those kids do have to be registered in advance under the account of a parent or guardian who's qualified as low income. And kids who ride alone do also have to pay the one-way fare of $2.50. And as I mentioned earlier, young children who need a car seat, they do need to be secured by their parent. Service animals will have no charge. We will count a service animal toward 1 seat in the vehicle for capacity purposes. And that's really just to make sure there's adequate comfort, both for the service animal itself and for other customers you may be sharing the ride with. Reservations initially, as I mentioned, will be book in advance only. We may add same day or on-demand reservations later. That has been a real common request, but we do kind of want to make sure there's capacity for that before we add back that feature. For the advanced bookings, you'll be able to book your ride as early as 2 days prior and up until 7 p.m. on the day before. And if you request to be picked up at 5 p.m. or to be dropped off at 6 p.m., if there's space available, you'll be given back a ride that's within 30 minutes of that, basically within plus or minus 15 minutes of that. So if you asked for a 5 p.m. pickup, if there's space, you'll get a ride offered to you at somewhere between 4:45 p.m. and 5:15 p.m. And if your ride is approved, you'll get basically 4 notices. You'll get one at 8 p.m. the night before, one 30 minutes before your ride, one 5 minutes before your ride, and one when the van actually arrives there. And most customers will get this via SMS text message. If you prefer an auto dial phone call, that's also an option. So why all the changes? Many of you probably attended some of our previous presentations on this over the last couple months, but SacRT is facing budget difficulties right now. Most transit agencies across the nation are still dealing with a lot of budget challenges coming out of the pandemic. And these challenges really aren't limited to transit either. A lot of local governments are facing these issues. SacRT, like most transit agencies here in California, did receive some one-time funds from Senate Bill 125 that helped with our budget this year and will likely be needed to help next year. But those funds come with a requirement that SacRT and any other recipients like us take some affirmative steps to reduce cost and reduce deficit. So for SacRT or for SmartRide, for instance, we here at SacRT currently get about $800,000 a year of grant money specifically for SmartRide. But SmartRide itself actually costs $8.4 million right now. So the balance of that cost is being paid out of other state and local revenues that are increasingly scarce. The changes here from SmartRide to SacRT Flex will reduce that annual cost from $8.4 million to $1.5 million. So it's a substantial savings of $7 million. And to put things into context too, it was a couple months ago now that we announced that SmartRide would be discontinued at the end of the year. And initially, SacRT had floated a replacement program where former SmartRide customers would get rideshare vouchers of essentially $5 to help pay for the cost of an Uber ride. And that program would have cost only $800,000 a year. The comments we got from members of the public, such as yourselves, included a fair amount of concern about accessibility, both for wheelchair users and service animals. And that's exactly why we've brought back the SacRT Flex program. It is going to cost a little more than that voucher program at $1.5 million. But this is basically a compromise solution to still conserve a great deal of money, but also to preserve a lot of mobility for customers who we think are in the greatest need. And to also put this into context, in terms of our overall cost reduction efforts, SmartRide today is a pretty expensive service to offer. Our average cost per passenger is $47 to move that customer. And with SacRT Flex, it's not only fewer vans, but it's also just a lower cost service to operate. So our cost per passenger is going to go down to $16. So I think that's important to note, just because we're trying to do these cost reduction measures in some of our service that's just not as cost effective as others. On average, for our full-size buses and light rail, it only costed about $10 per passenger. So with that, my presentation is wrapped. I am going to stop sharing the screen here and turn to the Q&A section. Before I do, just a few housekeeping matters. I may have neglected to mention earlier, but of course this presentation is being recorded. And we would like for questions to come either by voice or via the Q&A feature in the Zoom app. The chat feature in the app should be disabled. And we'd ask that folks not use the chat feature, as it tends to be disruptive to some of our hearing impaired customers. But the text Q&A feature should be fine. Although really we welcome and encourage folks to ask their questions orally, and you can do that by using the raise hand feature in Zoom. And we'll just call on people. We'll try to get you in the order that hands are raised, and we'll typically go to the hands and the oral questions first. If you are on a mobile phone rather than the Zoom app, you're still able to ask your questions. You just press *9 to raise your hand. We'll see you in the queue. We'll recognize you by your phone number since we won't know your name. And then we'll just ask you to press *6 to unmute yourself and briefly introduce yourself. We would like to limit questions to just a couple minutes, just out of respect to other people who are waiting to have their questions answered. We don't have quite as many guests today as we did at our prior webinar last month, so I'm not super worried about going over time, but we are trying to get out of here about 6:30 p.m. And like I mentioned earlier, we do also have a board meeting on Monday, November 18th at 4 p.m. Today's forum is a great opportunity to get your questions asked. If you're just here to lodge a complaint, that's also welcome. Both are also welcome at our SacRT board meetings. They are all public meetings. But I want to emphasize once again that the project we've laid out has been greatly shaped by public input, and there still are a lot of details to work out. You may have noticed that most of the slides say subject to change. This is a lot of aspects of this are new. So the constructive feedback we get from customers such as yourself really does help. So I'd like to thank you once again for joining in. And I'm going to stop sharing here, and we're going to start going to the questions. Looks like the first question is from Megan Burke. Megan, go ahead.
Hi, James. Thank you so much. What great information. I have 3 questions, actually. Do you want me to ask them all at once, or?
It depends on how long and hard they are. Let's start.
Okay,
with the first
not
one.
difficult at all. I do have a question about the $250 charge. Will the drivers be giving change? Let's say somebody comes on with a $5 bill. Will there be cash to give back, or do they need to have exact change?
You know, Megan, to be honest, I don't actually know the answer to that question. Certainly on the SacRT bus, we don't make change.
Sure.
These vehicles, they won't have fare boxes. It'll be pretty simple, just driver collecting the revenue and taking it home. But
that's
I can't answer that one definitively for you tonight.
Okay. Thank you. My next question is, will these slides be available for us to print out and distribute to our clients?
Yeah, the slides I think will be posted to sacrt.com/flex.
Perfect. And then my last question, in regards to the DHA pass, is there a charge for that? I think you mentioned that there was not a charge for that, or did I mishear that?
It's available only to persons who are on general assistance.
Okay.
And anyone on general assistance not only is eligible for it, but I think essentially has some money being taken out of their benefits to pay for it. So we encourage people to go pick them up, and they can do so by going to any local office of Sacramento County Department of Human Assistance. So
then with the DHA pass, they would not be responsible for paying the $2.50?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah, to be clear, the DHA pass allows them to ride fixed route, full-size bus and light rail for free. But for SacRT Flex, they would still be required to pay the $2.50 fee. Okay, so then just to clarify, what would be the purpose of having the DHA pass? That would just be to qualify to utilize the service? Correct. That would just be one form of evidence of eligibility to ride.
Gotcha. Okay, that's all I have right now. Thank you, James.
Sure thing. Thank you. Next up, I have Karen S. Karen, go ahead with your question.
What did you say about 2 minutes?
All right. So I have a couple of questions. Those were good questions from the person previous. Okay. So when you say $250 per trip, I know that right now, so it's $250 each way.
Correct.
Okay, so it's just the same pretty much, right? And then when you say fixed route transit, are you talking about like fixed route?
The full-size buses and the light rail.
Oh, geez. Okay. And then when you say you have a fleet of 11 vans, is that per zone or is that in all of Sacramento County?
That'll be for the entire service. So 9 zones and basically 1 van out in service in each of those zones. And then 2 spares.
Just out of curiosity, how many paratransit vehicles or a SmartRT or whatever, how many of those do you have running right now?
We typically have about 30
Yeah.
vehicles out deployed per day, vehicle shifts at least on Smart
Okay.
Ride. So it is,
This is
as I
gonna be
think you're
different.
alluding to, it is
Mhm.
going to be a reduction in vehicle availability. I mean, to put it into perspective, we carry about 700 people per day on Smart Ride now, and we expect to be carrying about 350 to 400 per day on the new service.
All right.
And so that's exactly why we are limiting it just to certain vulnerable populations.
All right. Now, I am an IHSS worker who currently uses the smart rides, with the big van and the lift and the whole situation. And I ride free because she's in a wheelchair. I'm the one who's like carrying the groceries and things like that. So you're saying that I would be a passenger who would have to pay $250 now?
Yes,
I would qualify to ride,
yes,
but
exactly. You'd be qualified to ride if
okay.
you're accompanying someone who would be qualified based on a disability. You'd be qualified to ride as their companion. One companion is allowed for any qualified rider, regardless of eligibility criteria. They do all
Yeah.
have to pay, but yeah, friends,
And it
family,
costs money.
whoever are welcome.
Okay.
One person's welcome to come with anyone.
Okay. And then one last question. Um, I'm not sure how this works, but the ride can be booked up to 2 days in advance. Can it be booked for that morning? Like that
No,
morning for
initially
that
we
day?
won't be doing same day. The
Okay, so
cutoff will be
that
7 p.m. the day before.
okay. All right. Thanks for all your answers and thanks for the thing. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Karen.
All right.
Next on the list is Leslie Bailiff. Leslie, go ahead.
Hi, I work with children who have vision loss and they need to ride the service. And there's a question about how they actually access the vehicle. So when they make the reservation, is there a way to put in the comments about the driver needing to contact the student? And also there's a lot of kind of confusion about exactly where the vehicle is going to pick up.
It sounds I might ask you, Leslie, to follow up with me offline because that's a pretty detailed question.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind sending me an email, it was in the slides earlier. I may want to loop you in with our actual operations contractor on some of those details.
Okay. And one last question. If they were a rider on Smart Ride, is that service just gonna go away, so their account would go away? And then we need to start a new account? Is that how it's gonna work? Or are they gonna be moved over from the previous
Yeah,
service?
the last day for Smart Ride would be December 31st. All customers will need to go get the new app and they will need to create a new account in the new
Okay.
app.
And the old stuff will just be deleted or gone?
Yeah, I mean, we
Okay.
are going through the lists of existing customers. We have about 3,300 existing customers who are active right now on Smart Ride. And we're cross-checking some of those lists to who folks we already know use SacRT Go or who may already have senior or disabled ID. But it's looking like we will need everyone to basically turn in an application, although we think the process will be pretty simple. Just apply online. We'll open that up, like I said, in early December. We definitely, between now and then, and through the month of December, we're going to be wanting to get the word out and spread the word. We'd like to get people to apply and register as early as possible. The cutover for Smart Ride to SacRT Flex being right at the end of the year is obviously not necessarily the easiest time to start a new service. So that's one of the reasons we are doing a soft launch starting on December 17th. Smart Ride will still be running, but if people want to try out SacRT Flex, it'll be open. And we'll have that month of December to register people. But we definitely would like to get people registered in advance as much as possible. And we're discussing right now ways not just to spread the word, but incentivize people to sign up early. So that may come in the form of, discounts or free rides or something along those lines.
Well, thank you very much. I'll reach out to you about the other question.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Next on the list is Rose. Rose, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Hi, Rose. How are you?
Oh, good. So my question is the fixed route that was originally, I live in Folsom and work in Folsom. The fixed route that would have taken me to work was eliminated, and we were all told to move over to Smart Ride. So I use the Smart Ride every day to get me to work and get me back home. Now, I'm just a little concerned because of the fleet being smaller. The availability is, there's only 3 seats per car. I'm really concerned about how would I get to work now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the availability will be a little more limited. And I think that frankly is kind of an unfortunate fact of this is a budget reduction, and it is a response to some budget difficulties, but I'll maybe counter that this is one of the reasons why we kind of felt that it would be better to at least initially start with book in advance. The bad news is, vehicles are going to be smaller and more scarce, but with book in advance, you will at least know the night before if your ride is available. And we do think there's also a little more ability with advanced booking to kind of group people together. At some point, there's only so much capacity in a vehicle, but knowing that, capacity will be a little limited, we did feel that advanced booking might be better just to give people that certainty in advance notice if they have their ride or not.
Okay, and then since I do have a disability, just to make sure, I have my SacRT disability Connect card. So that's what I'm going to need to apply for for SacRT Flex, correct?
Exactly. You'll just go to our webpage and upload a photo of your disabled ID card. And as long as it shows a clear image of your face and your name, we'll check that to what you put on the application and get you approved so you can get your account created. We may make it so that you can just enter the 9-digit code on your Connect card too. We're kind of playing around with what works better from the technical side, but that form of evidence will be sufficient to get you on.
Okay, and there is no chance of what was the fixed route coming back?
I think that's unlikely, because of the budget situation, that we'd be adding back service right now, but understand and appreciate the challenge there, Rose.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for calling in. Next, I have Michelle Baker on the line. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. I have a disability myself. I'm a high functioning autistic. I have Asperger's syndrome, and I use the bus and the Smart Ride. So I'm able to walk around. I don't need to use a wheelchair or nothing because I'm able to walk around. But, I take the bus and the Smart Ride. However, I live 12 minutes away from the bus stop, which is Route 19 across the street off of Rio Linda and Bell. And it takes, if I miss the first one, I have to wait a whole nother hour for the next one to come. And sometimes I just don't have the time to wait. I can't wait for another hour. So I take the Smart Ride because it's more convenient. And my question is, will that, so since I'm disabled, I qualify for paying $1.25, right? For a ride with the flex?
No, I should clarify, with a disability, your fare on the full-size bus or light rail would be $1.25, but on the new flex
Correct.
service, the fare will be $2.50 for everyone,
Including people with
including
disabilities?
disabled, yeah, including
Is
senior
it, is it
disabled.
for, is it like, is it, now, is it for, is it 25, no, is it $2.50 per ride, just like the regular bus, each time I use it? Because I go to more than one place on the smart ride.
Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
$2.50 for each trip. And yeah,
Well,
like,
I'll probably just do it one time then, because I'm on low income and I can't afford to pay $2.50 every day for a bus ride. Might as well do it on the regular bus if I have to do that. And I
yeah,
have a Connect card.
and I should maybe explain too, the proposal I mentioned earlier, you know, when we were initially thinking of replacing Smart Ride with a voucher program for Uber, it was going
Yeah,
to be like $5 vouchers, and then the customer would have to pay the
yeah.
rest on Uber. And you know, we looked at the typical
And
cost of an Uber, and it's about $13 to make a trip like Smart Ride. So even after
that's too
$5,
much.
it would have been like $8. And so I
Oh
mentioned,
no.
you know, wheelchair and service animals were a concern, but the affordability
Yeah,
was a major concern too. And so that's one of the reasons we brought
yeah,
this back. I mean, like I mentioned,
yeah.
this is costing our team more, and it's a tight budget for us,
I
but
was-
we were trying to be mindful of
yeah,
affordability. It will be a little more
yeah.
than it is today, to be sure, but we
And
were
then you have
hoping
to
to
book
kind of
in advance.
compromise there.
Oh, sorry. You have to
No,
book in
no.
advance, like
Yeah.
2 days in advance, right? Because like
Yeah,
I
as
go to
early as 2
the
days
grocery
before
store,
and as
I
late as the night
I go to the
before at
library.
7 p.m.
I go to the library. I go to like more than one place. And with this new change, it's like I probably should just go one place and then go back home or something, because I don't want to have to keep paying every time. I don't want to have to pay $2.50 all the time. That's a little too much for me. I'm trying to save up my money.
Yeah, yeah, understood, Michelle. Appreciate the comment. Thank you.
Hmm.
I'm not seeing any more hands, but we have some questions in the chat. Actually, I just saw a hand go up, but I think I may field a couple of these questions in the chat who may have been waiting for a while. First question is anonymous attendee. What would you recommend for a senior living just outside the Smart Ride service area? Senior does not have enough mobility to cross into the service area. More generally, why are the service areas limited for a point-to-point rideshare service? Well, you know, I think it's really just as a matter of money. I mean, funding is limited. Transit, to be sure, transit doesn't pay for itself. I mean, if you get your SMUD bill, they send you a bill for whatever it costs them to get power to your house or water or whatever. For transit, it's just not the same. On the bus, on the full-size bus or light rail, the fare the customer pays typically pays no more than about 20% of the cost to operate service. And the rest is just dependent on taxes, whether they're state or local or federal. So funding is just really limited. And we're always faced with a hard decision of where to put service. We've tried to place service here in places to fill in places where we know there's major gaps, places where the regular bus and light rail network may not hit, but we can help people get to it. But definitely we can't hit everywhere. We don't hit every gap, and we know that. You know, funding for transit here in Sacramento, there is some local support in the form of Measure A, which was passed in 1989, which provides about 1/3 of a cent sales tax, actually 1/3 of 1/2 of a cent sales tax to help transit locally. But down in Los Angeles, they get 2 whole cents, and they have like 10 million people there. So we try to do the best we can with what we have here in Sacramento, but really it just comes down to money, why we can't serve more places. Next question is from Diane. Since this requires customer registration for each one, how does this work if our program makes reservations for a group of 3 to 4 people? Can one person make the reservation for the group, or does it have to be individually reserved? Most of our folks do not have mobile phones on their own. Yet, with vans having only 3 seats plus wheelchairs, there really is not going to be an ability to ride in groups of larger than 4. And 4 would be if one person is in a wheelchair. And each reservation is actually going to be capped at 2 adults. And that's really just because these are smaller vans with just 3 seats in a wheelchair space. We're capping ordinary reservations at 2 adults to try to conserve as much space so we don't have to turn as many people away overall. But it is going to impact people's ability to ride in larger groups like that. The one exception that I did note is parents traveling with kids. If you've got 2 kids that you want to bring with you, you can bring both those kids with you. Kids, under 18, you can bring them both with you and they can ride for free. Next question is from Rose. I forgot to ask, will SacRT Flex pick up at the home or at the corner? To be honest, we haven't fully nailed down those details. I suspect we'll retain the same rules that we have for Smart right now, which is that we typically direct people to walk down to the nearest major intersection, what we call corner to corner. We do get a lot of requests, of course, for direct to home. It's a convenience. But as I think this conversation is illustrated, we're really trying to do everything we can to maximize capacity. We know it's going to be limited, and we're going to try to spread it around as best as possible. And so having people walk oftentimes from a small street or a cul-de-sac they live on down to the nearest intersection, that really can help keep the vehicles moving and on to their next pickup. We have another question here from Anonymous. Are regular students able to use this service? What about people traveling with kids who need to bring their own car seats? So students will not be eligible across the board to ride this. There was a fair amount of concern about the large number of students using this service, absorbing all the available capacity, and then persons with disabilities or seniors might not be able to use it at all. So if you're a student and you're a low-income student in a low-income household, you will be able to ride this. Your parent or guardian will need to create an account and provide that evidence of low income, but then any kids on that parent's account will be able to ride, but it won't be open across the board. I think going back to the voice questions, I see Gail Morgan has a question. Go ahead, Gail.
Hi, Jake, or James. The basic way I was looking at it was that it sounds like paratransit at a different level. Did I figure that out right?
I don't think I'd describe it that way. Paratransit is a pretty different thing. Paratransit serves everywhere.
Right.
Paratransit is really for people who are unable to use the fixed route system. This does have some limitations to senior and disabled, but it's not quite as stringent as paratransit. And our paratransit, we have to provide that everywhere where we have fixed route. This is obviously not everywhere where we have fixed route. It's kind of targeted to specific places. And really, in a lot of cases, it's targeted to places where we don't have fixed route. But the rules really are a little less stringent with this. ADA has a lot of tight requirements. This is not quite the same in those respects.
In advance, though.
Sorry, Gail, go ahead.
You still have to call a day or two in advance, and the fee is is locked in per ride.
Yeah, so this will be book in advance, like you said. Now the technology has the capabilities to do same day and on demand. And like I said, we may add that back. We know that's something people want. We mentioned in our last workshop and at our board meetings that this may be advanced booking only. And people told us they like the freedom and the independence to be able to book same day or on demand. We get that. But by the same token, you know, like we've discussed tonight, we do have some real concerns just about overall availability and predictability, knowing you're going to have a ride or not. So that's why we're initially going to do book in advance only. If we do find that, you know, end of the night, after we've gotten all the ride requests and we're putting together the next day's schedule, if we routinely have some gaps where we don't have ride requests, we may indeed add back the on-demand capabilities. There's no point in having that vehicle idle. We just want to be a little cautious and not necessarily jump to offering that initially.
Sure. All right. Thank you, James.
Sure thing. Thank you, Gail. Next on the line, I see a phone number ending in 8742. And I've allowed you to unmute. If you want to go ahead, it's *6 to unmute. And if you wouldn't mind stating your name before your question.
Hello. Hello, you
Hello.
can hear me? Hi,
Yeah,
this is
thank you. Go ahead.
Hi. Yes, so when you do advanced booking, is there a limit of how many bookings you can do per day? Let's say if I needed to make 2 or 3 stops, will it allow me to make multiple bookings for one day?
You know, that's not something we've gone over yet.
Yeah.
Can't tell you that just yet. Glad you asked.
Okay, because
I
with
mean,
the
perfect example of why we do these things. There's a lot of details we haven't gone through just yet like that.
okay. Okay, because currently with a smart ride, you can be picked up like whenever you need a ride, whenever it's like 3 or 4 times in a day. But I wasn't sure with the new system, the Flex, if you're able to book in advance, like let's say the first one at 9 a.m., the second one at 12 p.m., then the last one at 3 p.m. Will they allow us to do that? I wasn't sure about that.
I mean, I assume, I suspect we'd want to let people book a return trip at least. So
Okay.
I don't want to jump to conclusions, but I would think we'd at least allow 2 trips per day. We may not have a
Okay.
cap on that, but we haven't totally decided that yet.
Okay, so on the app, it'll let me put the address of where to pick from and going to, or will it be a corner to corner only?
Another customer asked about that. I suspect we'll stick with the corner to corner.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for today.
All right. Thanks so much for asking and joining in.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to the text Q&A. I see we have a couple new questions by text. First, again, from Michelle. The students using SmartRide become a very huge concern for me because I would sometimes have issues getting a ride. I sometimes have to take the actual bus to get where I need. Yeah, so you know, we're kind of 2 minds here because we know SmartRide has been very popular with students, and that means it's important. They're using it because they need it. But we have also heard a lot of concerns from our senior and disabled community and others that the students can kind of monopolize the service, and that's why we've essentially limited it to low-income students. I mean, we'd like to carry them all, we really would, but with resources being limited, it really is just a decision on how to prioritize who we can provide service to. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, you mentioned having to take the actual bus where you need to be as well. I mean, we definitely do see use cases. We see rides being taken today on SmartRide that could have been made on fixed route. And there's almost always capacity on the full-size bus or on the train. And with this program being in kind of a belt tightening, budget reduction posture, with the number of vans going down. You know, people who can take the regular full-size bus or the light rail, that really is a good option. And for many folks, for senior disabled, that'll be a lower cost option. And so that's a conscious decision we've kind of made. Part of raising the fare a little bit, honestly, is to encourage people who can take the regular bus to take that instead, if that is an option, to keep the SacRT Flex available for the people who really need it the most. Next question is from Shirley. So how do we register for SacRT Flex? Great question. It'll be done basically online. You'll go to sacrt.com/flex, or we'll have it's not up yet, but we'll have that up and running. We're shooting to have that on Tuesday, December 2nd. But it'll be a simple application process online. And then another question from Shirley. How many vans in Sunrise Boulevard, Citrus Heights area? Yeah, it'll be one van per zone. So the Citrus Heights area in general will have one van out there, and these will be 3-seat vans. And then from Rose, are VIA operators fingerprinted or background checks done? Yeah, they do all undergo background checks and are subject to drug and alcohol testing. Question from Sybil. My teens high school has students who use SmartRide every day. There's no fixed route there. It was canceled when SmartRide was introduced. What is your suggestion for those students? Not quite sure which high school that is. So a little tricky to answer that. But it certainly is a general response. SacRT Flex will cover the same geographic areas that SmartRide covers today. So low-income students will be able to ride that, but it may indeed be a problem if your student doesn't qualify under that criteria. I see Bella Vista and Fair Oaks. Yeah, so Bella Vista certainly will still be in the SacRT Flex zone, but yes, it will be subject to the low-income qualification. And I think I'm going to go back to the voice comments. Megan, I see you have another comment. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I do have two questions, and one of them you touched on, but I wanted to just clarify. So the program that I work for, many of our clients utilize paratransit currently. And so they're able to schedule the drop off or the pickup time in the morning and then the return ride in the afternoon. So what I'm hearing is that would not be an option to schedule 2 rides in one day.
No, we haven't decided if there'd be a cap, but I think we'd probably allow at least 2 rides so people can make a return trip.
Make a return. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because capacity is limited, that's another reason I think it's maybe valuable that it is booked in advance, so you can be sure that you do have both your trip to your destination, your return trip home known in advance and not get stranded.
Okay, so that would be available to a client if they book their ride for the morning, and then they can also at the same time book their ride for the afternoon pickup.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And then my second question, so my program is on Greenback, which is a pretty busy street, and it's near the intersection of Sunrise. So when you mentioned corner to corner, would they be being dropped off at the corner of Greenback and Sunrise or the nearest cross street right there? It's a pretty busy intersection.
They're literally in the system as kind of virtual stops for every possible place where we drop people off. And it usually is not right at the corner, especially on high-speed streets like that. It's usually recessed from the intersection, a safer place. And in the event that it's not, drivers will usually kind of improvise and be safe. And we sometimes will get inquiries from customers who are routinely directed to some place that doesn't seem the best, and that is something we can change.
Okay.
But yeah, the corner to corner term is kind of just, it's shorthand for indicating that it's not what we normally call curb to curb, which is right
Like
directly
door to
at any
door.
address. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is not a door to door service, but it would be a general vicinity.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, James.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Megan. Well, at this point, I'm not seeing any more questions in the text, and I'm not seeing any more hands raised for voice questions. I see a thank you note from Rose. You're welcome. Thank you for posing questions. I see a new question from Michelle. If I use $5, which is $2.50 twice, will I be able to pay for both trips at the same time? I think that goes back to if we're making change or not. And I'm not sure at this point what the policy will be on making change. So unfortunately, I can't answer that one just yet. I see a hand up from Brett. Brett, go ahead.
Oh, hey there, James. So I was thinking just that for those of us who, would be planning ahead, what are your thoughts on the possibilities of changing rides that we've booked because of, changes in our schedule? So if you are booking a outgoing ride and a return ride and something happens, does that mean, for us riders that are going to be going into the new year, we're going to have to plan around getting back either with what do you call them, the big buses, or Uber, which that makes a big difference because now you have to start budgeting for that. Will we be able to call and say, hey, my doctor's appointment ran long, I need an extra 30 minutes, or is it just no show?
We definitely prefer you not no-show. I mean, we haven't hammered out yet details of a no-show policy. We certainly always prefer customers provide advance notice if they need to cancel.
Of course.
We haven't hammered out the cancellation window policy yet. For
No,
changes
my
to
question
a
was
ride
more,
that's been confirmed, I mean, we will have the telephone assistance, and that's probably where we direct you if you need to make a change, same as a cancellation.
because I know on the SacRT currently you cannot really modify a route or a pickup or any. I mean, I hear it going over the radio all the time. People are like, "Can I go?" No, if it's further, you can't drop them off any further than what they scheduled. You can always drop them off shorter than what they scheduled. But now it's going to be more difficult with the book in advance.
Yeah, and certainly
with
the on-demand, that is one of the nice perks of it is fewer cancellations.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking for people who, like for myself, most of my routes are doctor's appointments, or, if I have something that goes several hours, and I would know the bookends, but if the second one, the return trip, has a problem, are we going to be stuck? And if that's true, then that's fine. We just have to plan. The collective we have to plan for that. Am I going to have to ride Uber a lot more often than I normally do?
Yeah, I mean, our ability to push your time back, I don't know that I can forecast.
And that's fair.
How flexible we'll be on that. Some of that we'll probably be figuring that out during the soft launch. I mean, as a general suggestion, probably good to book a little schedule cushion for service like this.
Oh, always.
I mean, the flip side today with on-demand on Smart Ride, I mean, we are looking at going from more vehicles to fewer, but we do get a fair amount of complaints about Smart Ride, just about wait times. I think we typically turn away about 1 in 5 requests due to capacity, and wait times average about 30 minutes. So, we take the good with the bad. But yeah, the question you bring up is really helpful, actually. I appreciate you sharing that. It'll be a part we'll have to sharpen as we get down to even more details on this.
Great, thank you.
Very welcome. Another question from Megan. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Just thought of something. Is there, just having been familiar with paratransit, they usually give a 30-minute window period for pickup or drop off, whatnot. Will there be that similar concept of a window period? So for example, if somebody were to book a ride for 2 p.m., can they expect it at, I don't know, 1:45 to 2:15 or 2 to 2:30? Is there that caveat with the reservation?
If you request, you'll be able to request, when you place your request, you'll be able to say whether you request a pickup time or an arrival time.
Okay.
And if it's just to use as an example, a pickup time, if you request 4 p.m., if we have room to pick you up anytime between 3:45 or 4:15, so 15 minutes before or 15 minutes after, we'll confirm you for a time somewhere in that window. Once you're confirmed there, what the windows are for how long we expect you to wait there, that's handled a lot because it's real time. So you'll get notices when the van's on its way. If the van's running late, you'll get a real time alert about that. Whether you want to get it through SMS text or just look at it through the app, that'll be the way to deal with the day of contingencies.
And you had mentioned, I believe, that there was a message would be sent 5 minutes before and then upon arrival, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll get a message 30 before, 5 before, and upon arrival.
So just a follow-up question. If a client is not, or a passenger is not ready at that time when they're there, let's say they're in the restroom or they've in whatever it is, does the driver have a certain amount of time that they do need to wait, like a required time, like a 5-minute waiting period for the passenger to get into the vehicle?
Yeah, we've discussed a little, but haven't finalized. We're really only kind of scratching the surface on wait time for the late customer.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, James.
Sure thing. Thanks, Megan. Another question from Rose. Go ahead, Rose.
Yes, hi, James again. It just popped into my head. The way Smart Ride is that like if I go on and then they pick up the next passenger, drop off the next passenger, and then eventually come to my location, will Flex be similar in that way?
Yeah, we call that shared ride.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a public transportation. So as a matter of probability, you may get a vehicle all to yourself, but as a policy and a rule, you may very well pick somebody else up on the way to your destination, or someone else may already be on the van when they pick you up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Rose. Thank you. Question from Jeff. Go ahead. Jeff, it looks like you're muted. Hopefully you're able to.
Yeah, I got into the conversation a little late, so I missed most of it. I was waiting for my Smart Ride.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like, oh
Very
man,
good.
I forgot it started at 5.
Well, glad you could finally make it.
Yeah, so I just got off my Smart Ride too. I'm walking to my house. So I read the article online from the little scan code in the bus. And I saw the van. My thing is that I rely on Smart to get to work every day. And so from what I understood, y'all said the buses, the rides are going to be working pretty much the same way that Smart Ride buses are right now, as far as where they start and stop. Has that changed in any way for
There definitely will be some differences to the service, but I think what you're getting at is
I have to
the geographical area where it serves. That will be the same.
I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning,
The
and
hours will be the
catch
same.
the
7 a.m. to
51
7.
the 51 around the corner from my house, ride all the way around to the Florin stop behind Walmart on 65th Expressway. And then from there, I sit there and I wait for my ride to try to catch a smart ride. Most of the time I'm successful. If I don't, then it costs me $25. And I don't have a vehicle. I rely on Smart to get to work. And I'm just wondering, is it still going to start at the same spot or?
Yeah, the hours and the geographical boundaries will be the same.
Uh-huh. And have they come up with a payment method other than direct cash?
If you want to pay with credit or debit card, you can do that.
Okay, so the Connect
As long as
card's
you
still
use the
not
smartphone
set
app,
up
you can
yet,
just
right?
load it in there.
Uh-huh. Oh, you said what now?
If you use the app, you just load your credit or debit card into the app and pay directly through the app.
Oh, okay. Is it the same app or a different app now?
It'll be a new app with a new name.
Oh, okay.
The service is going to be called SacRT Flex, so it'll have a new app, but
Oh, good. As long as I don't have to
it'll have
carry
the
around
same
that.
software provider, so it should have probably a similar look and feel, or at least very similar capabilities.
You know what would be nice is if you guys could add a function like you do with the SacRT buses, where it shows where the rides, where they have the GPS location.
It'll
It'd
have
be
that.
so helpful to determining if I can wait around for the ride to get to me, or if I have to go a different route.
No,
And
it'll have that.
it will have that. Yeah,
Yes,
because
sir.
that's one thing that's unnerving right now is not knowing what, and like the zone that I'm in, they've only ever got 2 buses at a time running. Where
No, that's one of the key features is you'll be able to see your vehicle in real time as it's on its way to you.
awesome. So it sounds like it's sounding better and better.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Going back to the written questions. Question from Kim. If you're going to any medical appointment and low income and your insurance covers transportation, you don't need to use SacRT at all, and it's free. Yeah, not sure the details on that, but there are every day I learn new options that are out there for people. So appreciate you sharing that, Kim. Question from Diane. Can we request for increased times or availability for bus routes in the area, such as bus number 113, especially if SacRT Flex is now limited to just one vehicle for the area? I mean, you're always welcome to make requests, but as I stated to another customer who asked, we're not really in an expansion posture right now. I mean, this is a change we're making because of budget difficulties. So we're not really looking to add any service now on other bus lines. Another question from Michelle. If I start using Flex anytime next year, I need to start budgeting my money. Yeah, understood, Michelle. Yeah, we understand, fares are tight for our customers. We are, trying to keep this affordable, certainly compared to the alternatives, but appreciate you sharing with us, that affordability is a difficulty. It's good to always hear that input, and keeps us kind of in tune with reality and what life's like for our customers. So appreciate you joining in and sharing your thoughts with us. I am not seeing any questions, any hands raised. We just still have another 20 minutes. I don't have any objections to ending early, but we're here, so don't be shy. If you have any other questions, feel free to raise those hands or type them in. Another question here from Jeff. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick thought. It's not necessarily a question. All the money that I have to, I'm trying to figure out why it's not feasible when you think about all the money that those of us who end up spending on Lyft and Uber. how we could be spending our money towards expanded rides. That's something to be considered. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, the state of California has a law, I think it's relatively new, that basically puts a small tax or surcharge anytime someone takes a ride on Uber or Lyft. And that little surcharge is collected by the state or the Public Utilities Commission or someone like that. And it's actually collected so that it can be redistributed to help people, I think basically seniors or disabled persons, get around because a lot of those people aren't as able to take advantage of Uber or
I
Lyft.
am a senior and I have to pay the full fee, so that's not
Yeah,
helping me
yeah.
any.
So those fees, we're actually looking at trying to get those fees that are collected here locally to help pay for this service.
Well, I'm just
Questions?
saying, I'd rather be paying my $50 a month or whatever, have money available and using the flex service or an expanded ride, or expanded routes than giving all this money to an Uber ride to go 4.5 miles. And I'm talking about one way, actually 4 miles one way, cost me anywhere from no less than $20 to $27 if I'm going to tip my driver. Sometimes $35 for 4 miles.
Yeah, gotcha. Understood.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
In an
Thank you.
area where there are hundreds of employees, that to me, it would warrant expanding the routes. I don't understand the logic behind not expanding the routes. I think the money, if they invested the time and allocated the funds, at least get one bus out there would be great.
Yeah, understood. Thank you, Jeff. I want to jump to our next question from Arthur. Arthur, if you'd like to go ahead. Arthur, it looks like it looks like you're on mute. There you go. Arthur, are you there?
Yes, I didn't know I was just waiting for a voice to say something.
You're good to go.
Yeah, well, I caught the tail end of when the Flex RT is going to start as a trial. Did you say December the 17th?
Yeah, the full launch will be on January 2nd. We'll be doing a soft launch on December 17th. So that'll be kind of like a trial period. And we'll be opening the application process on December 2nd.
Now, will there be a flyer or something like mentioning about that at all, like as a reminder on the bus?
Yeah, certainly through the month of December, we'll be putting notices out. We'll have notices in the buses. We'll be doing email, social media. We'll be alerting people through the app. We need to let them know that, first of all, that Smart Ride's going away at the end of the year. And second,
that's what I heard.
They can take SacRT Flex, but that they need to go sign up. And we're going to want them to sign up as early as possible so we don't have a big rush at the end. Now,
do I go down to headquarters at RT on 1400 H Street to do that, or on our street? How do I do that? Pardon?
You'll actually apply online, Arthur.
I don't know a thing about the computer. I'm sorry, I'm a dummy.
Well, if you go through to one bus, yeah.
Okay, all right. I just wanted, but it's going to be called SacRT Flex. Did you say?
Yeah, the service will be called SacRT Flex. That's correct.
Okay, and is that SacRT Flex?
Correct, with a space between the words.
In between the words. Okay, that's what I thought. I was wanting to find out. When will there be what phone number would it be under as under RT itself, like the phone number, like to call?
Yeah, if you just call 321-BUS, 321-2877, we'll help you out.
Right.
We likely will create a special number just for this service. And when I say 321-BUS, I'm talking about for help applying and registering.
Right.
Once the service is up, if you're just calling to ask where's my bus, that'll be a different number, and I don't have that number yet.
I understand that.
We'll probably also have a different number for your application, but if you just call 321-BUS, we'll get you to the right place.
All right, now just one thing. I do have a Connect card, and I heard something about like things that's going to be changed to update it. How do I update that?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. I mean, we are.
Well, I have a Connect.
Right? Go ahead, Arthur.
I was going to say that I have a Connect card. It's a senior Connect card, but from what I was listening to, I got the tail end of it. That's saying that like of having to update the Connect card to the a Flex card, or what?
So initially, SacRT Flex won't have Connect card readers. It'll be just cash or credit. We are working right now on like a new upgraded Connect card system. You know, we've had Connect card for several years now, so we're doing a procurement now for kind of a new updated system. But that won't be out until at least next year. Now, when that comes out, we may have that integrated with SacRT Flex, but that's still in development.
May I make a suggestion on something? Like you were saying that like of email and everything. I don't have an email myself, but like I was wondering, like if maybe could like get into the like mentioning it in what they call the Next Stop News from RT also.
Yeah, we have been mentioning this in the Next Stop News. I suspect that's how some people found out about today's presentation. But yeah, this is big news. It'll continue to be in our newsletter.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much. And I do want to be able like to have things updated and all, but it's right now it's just transportation, like of knowing when things are going to be and etc.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your comment, Arthur. And I'm going to move to a couple more questions in the chat. First from Brett is Flex only available during December application period? What if I become eligible after the new year? Yeah, the application and registration process will begin in December, but that will definitely be ongoing. I mean, once December is kind of the trial period for operations with the soft launch starting on December 17th, but the program will go to full launch on January 2nd. And yeah, you'll be able to apply or register at any time after we basically at any time. Question from Regina. Can you speak your email for us who can't see it? Yes. If you want to email me, it's my first initial J as in James, and then my last name, Drake, which is DRAKE at SacRT.com. And I think someone's entering it into the chat right now too. So you'll have it as text in there. Let's go back to hands. I have not seen any more questions in the Q&A. I'm not seeing any more hands raised either. We're at 6:22 now. And it sounds like we may have wrapped up all the questions, but definitely appreciate all the good questions and input and interest in the project. You know, it's helpful not only to get these questions to help us, you know, shape the project, but it's helpful to get the word out. This is something people need to know about. It's going to be a big change for people. And around the holidays, it's tough to get the word out. So you folks who join in and share with your friends, family, and neighbors that things are changing, that really helps us make sure people don't get left behind. I see Michelle, one more question from you. Go ahead.
Okay. So during the next board meeting, which is on November 18th at 4 p.m., are we still going to be talking about the flex again?
I'm not sure how extensive the presentation will be. There's a chance there may not even be a presentation, but there'll be a full report. November 18th is when our board will be taking action, basically to approve the program and to approve the contract.
The reason why I mentioned it because I have a friend. He's Mexican. His name is Miguel Pina. I'm sure you've seen him at the board meeting, but he's blind. He's visually impaired, and I forgot to tell him about the webinar. I was trying to text him and let him know that I was on the meeting.
Oh, I see.
Because I wanted him to join in too, because he's visually impaired. This is something that that will benefit him too.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'm sorry he didn't get the notice earlier, but I appreciate you sharing that.
I completely forgot.
Oh, that's okay. Question from the phone number ending in 8559.
That's
you're
me.
welcome to unmute. And
I was just wondering sorry, I'm Katrina. I was just wondering, will we get a recording of this so we can go over it again?
Yeah, this is being recorded and we'll post it to sacrt.com/flex.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
You're welcome, Katrina. Thank you. Okay. That appears to be it for questions, both text and voice. So thanks again, everyone, for joining in. And once again, sacrt.com/flex for more information, or you're welcome to email me at jdrake@sacrt.com. Then big thanks to our staff who is online here behind the scenes, who's been supporting this this big project. And yeah, feel free once again to hit us up if you have any other questions offline. Thank you, everyone.